Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on the Three Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at 3manblitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks, guys.
It's time for fantasy. Here's our 3 cents.
All right, so transitioning into the next guy. So I just want to bring it to you like this. Talking about Deshaun Watson winning you a championship several years ago. You sound like a Cowboys fan to me right now. And that so happens to be our next guy up is the guy leading the squad in Dak Prescott.
Why you say that? Get out of here. Get out of here.
So go ahead. Take us away with old Dak.
Dak Prescott. Man, this guy has got a loaded receiving core this year. Now, this is a given that he actually shows up to play. You got a lot of people saying he's still going to hold out. And some of that fuel to the fire was added, the speculation there whenever they actually brought in Andy Dalton.
Who?
Why do you need the Red Rocket? I'm sorry. I know you didn't know who I was talking about.
I didn't know that guy.
But they brought in Andy Dalton, left a lot of us scratching our heads. So maybe he actually does plan on holding out. But if not, if this man returns on time, I expect him to have a fantastic fantasy season. You've got Amari Cooper, you've got Michael Gallup, and they just took Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama. They took CeeDee Lamb. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got them right. They took CeeDee Lamb out of
either way.
Oh, yeah, really? Those guys are like same level. They're
1A.
both fantastic receivers. Yeah, 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
I mean, but he fell to the number. It was pretty late in the first round of the draft. I think the Cowboys picked. What was it, like number 16 or something like that? Yeah. Like, it was wild. I can't believe that guy was still on the board. But anyway, I think that gives mid fantasy value, and he finished very high last season. And that was also with Ezekiel Elliott having a really slow start to the season because maybe he was out of shape, just wasn't football ready. So you got Ezekiel Elliott coming back in, ready to play. You got these 3 wide receivers who were just absolutely fantastic. I mean, if he shows up to play day one, he's going to do great. Now, I don't think he's going to be one that people are going to sleep on. People are probably going to snatch him up pretty quick. But depending on the situation, if he's not showing up for camp and this and that, I mean, he may drop, and you may be able to pick him up pretty cheap.
That's true.
Those Cowboys, they are still the Cowboys. So I think Andy Dalton will do very well there. He will lead the
Red Rocket.
I think of course the Andy Dalton signing will affect Dak Prescott's signing. It will put a lot of pressure on him to sign, maybe for less than what he wanted to, just to get on the field. But he will have something to prove. I don't have a lot of faith in the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not a big fan of them. But Dak Prescott has shown that he's a winner. He has shown that he can put up numbers. So he would be, and he has some great wide receivers now too. Of course, with bringing in the rookie CeeDee Lamb, he has a lot of weapons there. Ezekiel Elliott's always going to be great. Cooper's going to be great. So he has all the weapons there to put up some numbers, to do great in fantasy. Of course, it just depends on him signing that contract. This kind of attitude that he comes in with, is he going to be resentful of how the Dallas Cowboys treated him? So it's going to be a lot of those things that's going to factor into it. So I think he'll have a good year. I'm not a big on him right now, but I think he'll have a good year.
I would slightly disagree just because last year he finished second overall in fantasy scoring as quarterback in our league. And, I mean, they only got better. So, again, the big caveat, assuming he gets signed and he's there week 1 leading the team, I think he'll do just as well, if not a little bit better. I mean, they've got a great offensive line. They got Ezekiel Elliott, all the guys you've already covered. So, it's hard to see him fall. Normally when you have somebody that's kind of had a really good season, you normally see him fall off a little bit. But I actually have him pretty high on my own list, and I think I have him number 3, and I think he'll do fantastic, especially with CeeDee Lamb. I'd like to see him get out of the slot, and take a couple balls to the house. So I see the Cowboys actually having a really good season if they can get out of their own way.
Exactly. I have him at 11, so he was out of my top 10.
Gotcha.
But with saying that, I do think, again, as you said, if the Cowboys get out of their own way, I think they could probably, maybe do something there.
I think make some noise.
I personally had Dak Prescott ranked at 6, and it would have been higher. But as all of our listeners know, I'm very wary of the Mike McCarthy offense. I don't like this guy. Terrible hire. Let me just say it again. I want to say it every episode. Like when I talk about Jalen Hurts, he's one side of the coin. Mike McCarthy is the other.
Gotcha. And I will say this too. I do think with a signing like Andy Dalton, bringing him in a somewhat backhand slap to the face. Now Prescott could be strong and try to hold out, and hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully, but if the Cowboys have a losing season at the beginning, then they would be eager to sign him. If they, it's kind of like what Ezekiel Elliott did, how the Cowboys tried to come out and say, we don't need that running back, but then started losing and was like, okay,
right.
let's go ahead and sign him real quick. It might be. It depends on what kind of attitude he comes in with to see what he's going to do.
Well, speaking of signing, I'd like to roll into our next quarterback, who would be in a two-way tie with another quarterback. He re-signed with the New Orleans Saints this year, Drew Brees, tied for number 3. What you got on Drew Brees, Queasy? I'm going to let you have this one.
Man, Drew Brees is a monster, and I hate to say that because he's also in the same conference as my Atlanta Falcons. But again, if there's a wide receiver, if there's a quarterback that you got to respect, it is Drew Brees. It was great to see him come back again this season. Great to have that rivalry still going. Has one of the top wide receivers, Michael Thomas, which is one great hands. Great. That's an understatement. Great hands. So loves to put out numbers. Love to put up touchdowns. I think he passed Peyton Manning, if I'm correct, in touchdowns. And actually, him and Brady are going to go back and forth this year with trying to have that touchdown record. So he has something to prove. They've been kind of knocked out on weird situations the past 2 years. So, again, they're just trying to get back up there again. So I think he will come out running and gunning and ready to win.
Yeah, and so, Drew Brees is one of my favorite quarterbacks that's playing at this moment. I really hope that the team as a whole makes it really far and makes it to the Super Bowl. That would be fantastic. I like the Saints. Not like a big Saints fan per se, but I do like the makeup. I really like Sean Payton. And Drew Brees, for some reason, I just always liked his game. He's really good. You see him breaking all these records. Last year, he finished 15th overall, so it's a pretty big boost. And I think we all see it coming. Of course, they've got Alvin Kamara. I hope they utilize him the way they did a few years ago when they were throwing to him a little bit more, not using him as a traditional just run it, and try to get to the edge, because he did a lot better catching the football out of the backfield. Like you said, Michael Thomas, he's phenomenal. He's pretty much number 1 right now, and he's dominating. He's braggadocial. He's got a lot of swagger, so get out of his way. He's probably catching every ball thrown his way, if it's a slant or not. He's catching it, and they added Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah. So, they've got a little bit more talented there at the receiver core and just another weapon to utilize. And, I think what's so good about Drew Brees is the combination with him and Sean Payton. Sean Payton's a brilliant offensive mind, and you see it every week. They always have really good football games, and you can kind of see the X's and O's, the strategy playing in. And it doesn't look like he's lost any zip on the ball. So, we've got him pretty high, and I see him having a good season this year.
Yeah, I'm also very high on Drew Brees. I've liked him since day one. He's a good fantasy quarterback to have, and he's usually pretty cheap. People normally don't reach for Drew Brees. Maybe it's because of his age. I don't know, but I'm not backing down off the guy. I love him. And I think a big secret to their success, hopefully this next season, is, like Jeremy pointed out, how they utilize Alvin Kamara. They didn't really use him right this past season. Latavius Murray was taking a lot of touches away. He just seemed like he wasn't getting in rhythm when he was in the game. Mm-hmm. And if Drew Brees can keep zipping him the ball on some slants and this and that, then I think they'll be back in rhythm just fine, and that'll do nothing but pad his numbers.
No doubt.
But, yeah, I love Drew Brees, and I think I had him on my personal list as my number 3.
I think I had him on my number 3 too. Also,
I had him number 5. I had him a little bit lower than you guys, but I still think he's going to have a fantastic season. Definitely. It's just the guys in front of him are going to have a better season.
As long as Michael Thomas can put down his Twitter.
No doubt.
Y'all stay out of this man's way on the field and on the phone.
Hey, I've said it before. I've probably said it in other podcasts, but it's just such a fun fact that Michael Thomas has more career tackles than he has career drops as a receiver. Come on, man.
Okay. So it's Jalen Hurts, Mike McCarthy, and then it's Michael Thomas career tackles. And what's the other side of your coin, bro?
I don't know. My coin's it's more like a die. It's a dice. I got so many sides going on, man.
Many faces of Jeremy.
Right.
All right. You want to introduce our other number 3 quarterback?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Since he's got your name.
He does share my name. So the other quarterback we had tied at 3rd will be none other than Seattle's Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson, where did he finish last year? Last year he finished at number 5. So he had a good season, you know. You just love this guy. You talk about the ultimate competitor when you kind of put other guys in that realm, like Aaron Rodgers. You always talk about his competitiveness. You know, you talk about that with Russell Wilson. Anything he can do to get the job done, he's doing. Even when it looks like, I remember, I think it might have been the beginning or the offseason of last season, people were talking about, well, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, you know, they're probably not going to have a fantastic season. They run the football a lot, and the receiving core is not great. And then you got this Hulk rookie coming out of nowhere, DK Metcalf, that is just ripped to shreds and catching everything coming his way. You know, like, what's not to like about him right now? He throws accurate. He doesn't make many mistakes. He can make plays with his feet. He does often when things break down. He doesn't just have to throw it away. He can get a couple of yards. He can get a lot of yards. And like I said, he's got DK Metcalf. He's got a couple of good receivers over there. We got Tyler Lockett, of course. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about Russell Wilson. I see him having a really good season, mainly because he can make so many things happen with his arm and his feet, and he doesn't make mistakes.
So let me jump in right here. It's a little bit off top. If you guys are buying into Russell Wilson like I am, and I am definitely buying into Russell Wilson, are you also buying into DK Metcalf? Do you think he has? You think he has what it takes to be one of the receivers we're talking about here in a season or two, where it's like, yeah, he's a true number 1?
He has the potential.
Exactly. Definitely has the potential. Will it be this year? I may say no. But definitely the next 2 years after that, you know, he has a chance to get in that top 8 easily.
Yeah, and you know, there's always those other factors that come into play. Is Russell Wilson still there? Probably, but what happens if he isn't? You know, does he get hurt? Does he not get the money he wants and he tries to get traded and goes to a terrible team and then just gets lost in a fold because he lost motivation or whatever? But as far as talent goes, I mean, yeah. DK Metcalf is really good. So he's got great hands. He's tall. He's fast. He can catch the fade. He can go up and muscle a ball away from everybody. So, yeah, I could see him being a pretty good receiver. This year, I've probably got him somewhere in the lower tier of number 2 receiver, just because you got so many. There's so many good wide receivers out there right now. So
exactly.
I'm kind of bought into Metcalf. That's why I was asking.
Okay.
I really like the guy.
If I may speak on Wilson, he's as you said, he's a top competitor, a known winner every year. Again, I look at him as another team that just the quarterback is so good that the rest of the team gets overlooked because he never has a top name wide receiver in a sense, but always have a winning pedigree. So he's a fighter, he's a winner, and he will go out and do it. I think. I'm putting it out there. I think Antonio Brown has a chance to come back to that team or come to that team. I think it'd be a great culture for him. So if there's, depending on how things out of the litigation, how it works out with Antonio Brown, I think there's a chance he can come to that team. And of course, I'm sure Wilson will welcome it with open arms. So that'll make his job a lot easier having Antonio Brown there. But even without Antonio Brown, yes, exactly. Even without Antonio Brown, though, I think he will do very well, as always.
No doubt.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet. I know I cut into the time a little bit going off subject, but what I like so much about Russell Wilson is his ability to read the field, and it seems like he's one of those quarterbacks who kind of slows the game down just a little bit. You know, whenever he's very poised in the pocket, he makes smart throws, as Jeremy pointed out. and he's very good at reading defenses. And he runs a little bit, not nearly as much as he used to, but you'll get a few fantasy points here and there from that. But he was just an absolute stud last season. He kind of came out of nowhere. He was a heavy sleeper. I think he was the last quarterback I picked up in Jeremy's league last year, and he definitely paid dividends. So if you see him on the board dropping lower than you think he should, snag him up.
Yes.
No doubt. Queasy, you want to bring us into our next guy?
Who would that be? Lamar Jackson?
That
Yes,
would
sir.
be Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, a great stud. He's shown and proved that he deserves to be in the league. Improved again last year with his passing. I think he needs to do one more step in increasing that. I don't want him to depend on his feet as much. I want his feet to be plan B and plan C, definitely. He got Hollywood out there who's going to be healthy, hopefully. Again, this is another team that I think, and of course, Antonio Brown could go to, which will help boost that team. They got their running game back. So, again, they're a team that's known to slow down the field for him. But with his feet and with short passes, again, if he can be more accurate, you can't pass on him as far one of the top quarterbacks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's even definitely an argument made for him to be the number one. And he was a sleeper last season in the Dynasty League where I picked him up. I picked him up after Mitchell Trubisky, believe it or not. But the cool thing about him, I noticed week in and week out, I was just getting like a buttload of points from this guy because he was giving me the production of a quarterback and a running back. It was great. This guy was running for so many yards. It was insane. I mean, like he was making defenses look stupid. And he can, sit in the pocket and pass the ball like he did against Miami in an opening game. I'm not a running back. I think his actual statement after that game was pretty good for a running back, huh? He's got something to prove as well. He's one of those guys who goes out there with a chip on his shoulder and a fire in his belly. And they added J.K. Dobbins to that run game as well. So that's another guy to help open up that passing game and open up lanes for him. I mean, I really like Lamar Jackson this next season. I think he'll have another fantastic season if he doesn't get injured running.
Yeah, no doubt. So that would be the biggest thing. Yeah, the biggest concern with him is that he gets injured, and that could be anything. Even a small injury to somebody like Lamar Jackson can really mess with his mental state. But he is very competitive. He's a fantastic football player. He's not just a quarterback. He's a football player. He could probably play several different positions. He's a very athletic guy. And that was the kind of the tack that they took. And you could tell, a lot of quarterback draws, but he's not getting hit really hard. He's spinning around people and running 60 yards for a touchdown. He gets out of bounds really easy. If he has to slide, he can, I like their run and attack, and you have to add him into it. So, you've got Mark Ingram, like you said, J.K. Dobbins. I think that'll be really good for him. I'm not crazy about their receivers, but he is a quarterback that he definitely made his receiving core better. And it's really the rushing attack that makes their passing attack look good because he can sit in the pocket and hit people over the top. And I think that's where he got really good this past season. It was in the pocket when everybody was trying to figure out a way to stop him from running or stop the running attack at all. So they bring guys up in the box. They do a little play action, and then boom, you got Hollywood Brown streaking down the sideline catching a big bomb, And so he got pretty accurate. I would like to see him develop more, but he's really young. And he's so athletic and so talented. And I think he finished last year at number one.
Mm-hmm.
If I may say, I definitely want him to develop more. I don't want him to get comfortable with his ability and thinking, okay, I'm unstoppable. If that makes sense,
right?
Because I think defenses will catch up to his ability because as we've seen in the playoffs, as soon as he can win so many games during the season and be so amazing, but as soon as he gets to the playoffs and teams focus on him. Or figure out the game plan for that team and have time to figure out a game plan for that team, he comes to a stalemate. So I want him to be able to get past that and keep on wanting to continue to grow.
No doubt.
I believe that game was probably an eye-opener for him. And like I said, this is a guy who's going to come out and play with a chip on his shoulder and a fire in his belly. He still has something to prove. He knows he's not invincible. He knows he can be stopped. And Queasy, as you pointed out first time around, if you got a healthy Hollywood Brown, who is a fantastic receiver out of Oklahoma, his rookie season was mostly lost due to injury. If you got him coming out healthy all season, Lamar Jackson's going to be dangerous.
Yeah,
No doubt.
but it's two seasons that he's been stopped in the playoffs now.
Yep. And I do think that he'll use that loss against the Titans in the playoffs as motivation because if you look back, like after games and stuff, they were all like celebrating and having a good time in the locker room and, goofing off, which is good because they're having a good time, right? And then you saw their faces when they lost that game. They took it hard. I mean, they weren't sad. They were mad. So if they take that into the offseason this year and build upon it, which I think they will, they'll be a really, really good team. And their defense is already nasty. So
yeah, that's what I want to see.
All right, Jeremy, you want to open up with our number 1 ranked quarterback?
So our number 1 ranked quarterback for the 2020 season, fantasy quarterback, is none other than Patrick Mahomes out of Kansas City. Super Bowl winning quarterback, Patrick Mahomes.
My homie.
So there's really, I mean, we could do a whole show on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's a fantastic quarterback, and there's so many attributes to him that other teams would love to have in their own quarterback. He's accurate. He doesn't have to look at a receiver and throw accurately to them. That no-look pass was nasty, and it's going to follow him around forever. But, I would like to see them as a team this upcoming season not have to come from behind, from like a 21-point deficit. But that really wasn't on him. Sometimes they were a little slow coming out of the gate, but they always found a way offensively most of the time to get it done. And, they added, what's his name, Clyde Edward-Helaire. So, and he's getting a lot of good comps. So, and they still have Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. They still got Sammy Watkins. Still have Mecole Hardman. They still have Damian Williams too. So they have just a ton of weapons. They still have Travis Kelce, of course. Everywhere they have on offense, they have a good offensive line. Like, there's a reason they won the Super Bowl last year, and a reason they could come from behind when they were down 21 plus points and still catch up with the team. They're so dangerous because their offense is literally stacked. How they accumulated this amount of talent, it's glaring. And Pat Mahomes, he's accurate. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. So just like Russell Wilson, and he can bomb it. So, of course, he's our number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll do awesome with the draft pick they brought into. What's his name? Swift from Georgia.
Go home. I'm done.
He has a plethora of weapons, of course, Kelce, and I think the team, again, as teams are supposed to, are capitalizing on his rookie contract and trying to bring in weapons and having weapons and pay them to win now. So they have a plethora of weapons, as I say, Kelce, Swift, Hill, so Watkins. So they have everything lined up for them to win. He uses his hands. He seems very smart. So again, as long as he keeps his trend, I mean, he looks very unstoppable.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you guys. He was my number 1. Lamar Jackson was actually my number 2. I think, Jeremy, you had him reversed, but
I had him
really,
reversed.
I mean, these guys, number 1, number 2, they have they're both like top tier quarterbacks. Like, both of these guys are nearly impossible to stop. But speaking on Patrick Mahomes, though, like, he can run, but when I think of Patrick Mahomes, he is the perfect pocket passing machine. And he can extend his legs a little bit, but I mean, this guy, he's literally a freaking machine. And what can you say about all the talent around him? I mean, you just named off Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He showed really good hands out of LSU this past season for Joe Burrow. You got Mecole Hardman, who's a burner, Tyreek Hill, who's a burner. These guys will just leave you in the dust, and before you know it, Patrick Mahomes put a ball over your head and they've scored. You don't even know what's happened. You're still in your stance, And then Sammy Watkins, he's a really good technical receiver, pretty good route runner. And he had a lot of games where he was the number 1. He was just going up and catching balls like crazy. You all right, dog?
All right. It just kicked me out, so I'm back.
Yeah.
Short hiatus. Had to go to the bathroom.
That's okay. That was fast. I was talking about Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman. You just
cheated. Hang on. Watch.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave real quick.
But I mean, for every compliment you can make about Patrick Mahomes, you can say something equally as positive about one of his receivers. So I mean, I definitely have him as my number 1. He stays healthy this season, man. He's a shoo-in. He's a lock.
And again, if I may say, one of the reasons why I would put him above Lamar Jackson is because of his winning pedigree so far. And again, definitely has better wide receivers. I think the coach is hand in hand, but he definitely separates himself by being pretty consistent.
Yeah. And as you guys can see, Jeremy just put a graphic up on the screen. It's our top 10. You guys just take a quick look at that, and he shows how many points they scored in 2019, kind of where they fell, and where we have them ranked for 2020 there on the left.
And just touching on Patrick Mahomes, too, I would be remiss if I didn't say that he sounded like Kermit the Frog, and I think that's cool. I really do. I think about it every time I think about Patrick Mahomes. I think about him sounding like Kermit the Frog for some reason. But he's extremely talented, and like Andrew said, here you go. If you wanted to take a look at this quick graphic, this is where they finished in 2019, rank-wise. So it's quite a bit of shuffle, and you'll see that from year to year, and this is how many points they had. So Lamar Jackson killed it last year with 527 in our league. The scoring's a little bit different than standard, but he was far above number 2, which was 474 with Dak Prescott. And just so you know, the number 3 quarterback last year was Jameis Winston with all the yardage and touchdowns he threw. So, of course, it won't be this next season.
And then, had Patrick Mahomes not had that injury last year, I think we would be talking about him a little bit differently in the past tense as well.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You can't forget about
he would have been neck and neck with Lamar Jackson, if not surpassed him. So
no doubt. I think he'd take the couple games out and win in the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to our top 10 quarterback episode. Next, we're going to be doing the rest of our top 25. We're going to have 15 quarterbacks, number 10 through 25, or 11 through 25. I'm sorry. And also, a new announcement today. We've decided that we are going to be doing a college football show focused mostly on the SEC because there are just so many college teams. That's just where we're going to get started and see how much we can handle and where it goes from there. But hopefully it'll be airing next week. So tune in to the 3-Man Blitz College Edition.
Ooh, come on. You hear that drum roll now?
I'm so worried.
As always, guys, don't forget, go and follow us, find the podcast, all the stuff we talked about at the beginning. Go on YouTube, subscribe, and hit us up on the website, 3manblitz.com.
Make sure to follow the 3-Point Conversion host on Twitter.
Blue at Rastalion1131, Jeremy at Checkerboard J, Andrew at Jedi Quarterback.